Hey guys, my name is Deng. You may or you may not know me. I'm an Australian 800 meter athlete representing Australia around the world and a proud NEC Australia ambassador. Last year, NEC and I got together, and since then it's been amazing getting to know the business, people, and the amazing work they do around the world. It's been great having the opportunity to meet other athletes like Dylan. I've been watching Dylan on TV for a while, and thanks to NEC, I've finally got the opportunity to meet him and joke around with him. What I enjoy the most is not just the cool tech, but the focus that NEC have on people and how technology and humanity come together to create awesome things for us. Right now, I'm training hard and focusing on representing Australia at next year's Tokyo Olympic Games. I'm excited to announce another great bloke, also an NEC Australia ambassador, and someone I've gotten to know during my time with NEC Australia. Having come out of a challenging environment myself, I know how difficult it can be. It's not always easy, but it's nothing compared to my mate Dylan. This guy is a champ, a Paralympic gold medalist, and an inspiration to me. I'm sure you'll enjoy the presentation today. Thank you.
Perception. Perception is everything when you're born with a disability. What you can do, what you can't. My earliest memory was looking at the wallpaper in my hospital room. Operation after operation. And playing totem tennis in my wheelchair with my brother Zach. He's the biggest influence on my life. Back then, there wasn't much I could do. Playing sport wasn't really an option. Hey Dylan, you can be the coach or the manager. No one really knew what to do with me. All I wanted to do was play. Pat Rafter was my favourite. I've still got his poster on my wall at my family home. School's tough when you're disabled. Bullying, they were the lowest times. It was my brother who was always there for me. My defender. My parents, it could not have been easy. They never wrapped me in cotton wool. That's important. And it was my parents who brought me here when I was 6. Technology improved, wheelchairs became better, and perceptions began to change. Suddenly, age 10, I found tennis. It saved and changed my life. I became more mobile, lost weight, and got fitter. I knew I couldn't play like Pat, but I could go some way to being like him. I started meeting people like me. Access became easier. I wanted to break through the stigma. I wanted to represent.
The winner of the Newcomb Medal for 2016 is Dylan Alcott.
The Australian Open is inclusive. That's why I love the place. The first Grand Slam to play a wheelchair final on centre court. Last year was the first time it was live on television.
What a way to take the first set.
8,000 people in the crowd. 500 kids in wheelchairs.
Dylan Alcott, an Australian Open champion.
Forget winning. This is the bigger picture. This is why I'm really here. Perception. Hopefully, we're getting there.
Let's see if we can get our friend Dylan Alcott on the line there. He is there.
G'day. Hey,
G'day, how are you? How are you going?
Excellent.
So,
Yeah,
listen, thank you very much for your time, and thanks for being part of Immersion Plus. We didn't quite get your video going there. There's a few little tech hitches with lag time. So I'm really delighted to be just spending the next half an hour with you, and delighted to be, perhaps giving people that have got to know you a little bit through your work on the tennis court, or perhaps even some of the work you've done off the tennis court, just over the next half an hour for us to have a casual Q&A. One of the things that I know that came out of just the very first part of that video in your voiceover was that perception is everything when you're born with a disability. And how, I want to ask you as an opener, because it's such a big part of who you are as a person, is how do you reflect on your own perception of yourself? Because when you were young, living with a disability, and how has that changed the perception, and that perception in many ways been changed and shaped over time?
Yeah, g'day DB, g'day everyone. It's awesome being here with you guys today. I can see the comments popping up, so please, if you guys have any questions on that, send them through as we're ticking along.
Absolutely.
And first and foremost, I want to send my love to everyone at the moment as well. This is a pretty weird time that we're all currently going through, and a tough time for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. I'm in Melbourne, so we are the epicenter of the world, it feels like, for coronavirus at the moment. So, I really, as I say, want to send my love and look really excited to be able to come and connect with some people, to be honest, and have a chat with you today, because, I've been sitting at home, not doing much apart from training. So I think it is important to do things like this where we can all connect with each other and things like that. My perception of myself, DB, has definitely changed over time. It probably has been a bit of a bell curve, I imagine, in the way that I thought about myself, in the way that when I was, first born with my disability, for people that didn't know, I was born with a tumor wrapped around my spinal cord that was cut out when I was a little kid. And when I was growing up, I never really cared about the fact that I had a disability. I didn't really notice it, to be honest. I knew I was different, but not in the negative aspect, you know what I mean? Like, I obviously looked different to my brother Zach and things like that, but I didn't really care about it. But when I reached, early teens, I started getting bullied about my disability, and I actually started resenting the fact that I had a disability. I hated myself. I thought that I was different, and being different was a bad thing. And I guess that perception of myself was really damaging. And I think that was a perception that I learnt of society. You know what I mean? Everybody always used to feel sorry for me. People used to think I couldn't do anything. So I started thinking I couldn't do anything. And then once I kind of pushed that to a side and started realizing, you know what, I am different, but being different is actually a positive thing. If you look at it through the correct lens, my life changed immediately. I started embracing my disability as opposed to rather being embarrassed about it. And once I did that, I started talking about my disability more. And as soon as I started talking about my disability more, everybody around me became more comfortable with it. And yeah, it changed my life. And, through the great work that we've got to do with each other through NEC and the partnership we have, I think everybody can see that I'm really proud of my disability now. You know what I mean? And I think people like NEC, you guys are proud of my disability too, and you're proud of who I am. And that gives me confidence to be the person that I am. Sometimes it's hard, yes. Sometimes you get discriminated against. Sometimes bad things happen. But as long as you have a great support network around you, showing you that it's okay to be you, that's what makes it worthwhile. And that's what helps me get out of bed every day.
Well, for us, being involved just in a very small way in your life as a support has been one of our great joys. We've got to know you. I often say to people, it's not the athlete that just performs at the highest level on the court. It's the person that this person represents and the community he represents across the country and across the world. And that's been a great joy for us. I've heard you say a number of times, both publicly and privately, that your life's mission is to change people's perceptions, and it's how they perceive others that have a disability. And I'd just love you to talk a little bit about that, and why that's so important to you, because I feel that there's two outcomes that you strive to achieve there. You're trying to talk to people who have a disability, and you're trying to speak to them, but you're also actually trying to reach out to humanity and society more broadly. Could you just share a little bit of an insight on that, Dill?
Yeah, for sure, DB. I could win, we've known each other for a while, and I obviously love winning tennis tournaments and love doing it, representing NEC and things like that. But I could win 25 Grand Slams and 10 gold medals, and I'd be proud of that, but I would regret not doing what I was actually put here to do, which is try and change the perception of what people think of people with a disability right around the world. You'd be, shocked to know, and it's okay to be shocked because I was shocked too, that in Australia alone, there are 4.5 million people with some kind of physical or non-physical disability. 1 in 5 Australians. 1.3 billion people in the world have a disability. And you might think, why don't I ever hear from anyone then? Or why don't I know anybody then? Or where are they? Or what's going on? You know what I mean? And the reason that a lot of people with a disability don't get the opportunities that they deserve is things like accessibility. There might not be the accessibility for them to get out there. And that's why I love working with NEC, because NEC provides a tech platform whereby you guys want to invest in helping people get out there and be the best people that they can be, disabled or not. You know what I mean? And especially in ways that, really help people with a disability. Some of the favorite stuff that I've been involved in that I love is things like facial recognition as a pass, say, to go on public transport, or to, at the Olympic and Paralympic Village. You might think, oh, why can't you just use an Opal card or a MyKey? Well, what if you can't have the physical strength to use your arms to get something out of your pocket? You can't use it then, right? You might not. So what do? You don't use public transport because of it. That sucks. You know what I mean? So there are so many ways that accessible tech are coming to help. But the biggest hurdle is not the hardware accessibility. The biggest hurdle is what I like to call the software, the perceptions, the lack of opportunity, the negative stigma. Those things are the things that make it the hardest. There are the hardest thing for people with a disability. One of the hardest things is to get a job. And for people with a disability, of those 4.5 million people, only 53% of them have a job. The unemployment rate is well over double. And that's not because the jobs aren't there. It's because they aren't given the opportunities. And you know what? Like, what about even, it goes all the way to things like, I'm so lucky I have a beautiful partner, Chantel, who I love so much. She's able-bodied. The amount of people with a disability that I speak to that go, they are losing the basic right of having a partner, going on a date, getting married, because too many people in our society don't give them the opportunity because they assume that they can't do it. And that breaks my heart. And the only way to change those perceptions is to talk about them in the mainstream, to break down those stigmas and things like that. And that's why I'm so lucky to be who I am. And if I didn't use my opportunity I've been given in life to change the perception of other people with a disability in our community, well, I'd be wasting, the gifts that I've been given. And that's why it means so much to me. And, that's why I love partnering with people like NEC who embrace that, you know what I mean? And we can hopefully, in a very, 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 very small way, have some impact on that change. And, look back in 20 years and go, we made an influence on people with a disability to live a better life.
Well, I often say to people who know that we have something to do with you, that you're one of the great human assets that this country has produced. There's no question, and you are making, massive change, creating massive change in this space. You've said, and I know it comes out of the little video piece that many didn't see today, but we'll have up online within the next 48 hours, that sport saved and changed your life, which is a pretty massive statement to make. Dill, I'd love you to talk about your role, because many people know you for the wheelchair tennis player that you are and the world champ that you are, but some didn't know that you were a wheelchair basketball representative and played for Australia at a number of Olympic Games, and that, the impact of sport in your life and more broadly in achieving goals and dreams, that's actually given you a framework for your relevance and your reference in life. Love you to just share some insights there.
Yeah, so, sport saved my life in the sense that when I was getting bullied at school and I felt so different and things like that, I used to watch my brother play sport and my friends and that, and I could never compete. And that was tough. And the biggest reason why it was the biggest influence on my life is not because I got good at it. It was because I met other people like me for the first time. So when I started playing tennis, I was like, hey, check out, I was 12, 13, playing tennis tournaments. I saw a 25-year-old guy who had just had a car accident. I was like, that guy's driving a car and he can't use his legs like me. I didn't know he could do that. He's married. He's drinking a beer. like he's normal, and I had never seen that before. So that's why it had such a big influence on me. And you know, for me and Joe, who you met before in the video, if you haven't already met him, Joe's an absolute legend. Make sure you go check him out on social media. He's a weapon. And you know, it gave us that sense of belonging in a community where we felt different. You know, and it was so important for us to be able to get out there and you know, I guess gave us something to strive for. But as you said, DB, it's given me the platform to be who I am and to have a voice and things like that. And if you had told, like, you know, people automatically assume because you're a famous sports person, you know, people will know who you are. But in the Paralympic world, you know, I want everybody right now to try and name as many Paralympians as they can right now. You'd be able to do it on one hand, I reckon. And that sucks because there are so many incredible Paralympians for generations that never got the recognition that they deserve. And if you had asked me 4 or 5 years ago, would I be where I am right now? I would have told you to get stuffed because, you know, when I would play at the Australian Open, there would maybe be 50 people there and they were all my family. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't in the mainstream. Now, at Rod Laver Arena this year, I know you were there, DB, there was 10,000 people, 12,000 people in Rod Laver Arena. 1 million people watched it on TV. Like that's just, and I appreciate that I'm the lucky one. And I just want that to permeate down to more athletes with a disability, but more so than that, more people with a disability. So then they can get a job. They can go out there. Accessibility improves. They feel the confidence to go out on a date, to go to bars, to go to restaurants, to be the people that they want to be, because previously, you know, that wasn't there. And it still happens, you know what I mean? And, you know, I sometimes go on airplanes and things and I get told I can't go on the airplane because it's too windy or some crap and they reckon their elevator doesn't work, you know, or they lose my wheelchair and they leave me on the plane for an hour and they think that's okay. And if that happens to me, imagine what's happening to a lady who's 40-year-old with MS or a young kid with cerebral palsy. I'm the famous one and they're giving me bottles of wine so I don't write a tweet about it, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. So, you know, I've got to use my influence and my platform to try and change that perception, and that's why it's so important to me.
And you are, you know, you are doing it, and this is a completely biased comment, but you are doing that every single day. We see it, we feel it as a person who's supporting you to achieve your goals and dreams and aspirations, and change that perception that people have in this inclusive and diverse society that we all want to live in. So we've had the great pleasure of getting to know you a bit more personally because of the role you've played as an NEC ambassador over the last 18 months. And we've also actually had the pleasure of observing some of the work that you do for the Dylan Alcott Foundation, which many people who are tuning in here wouldn't realise you do have your own foundation set up. Also Get Skilled Access and a fantastic initiative called Remove the Barrier Initiative. And what I've observed in you personally, Dill, is that you are a very deep thinker. You're an optimistic thought provoker because you always see the world through a glass half full perspective. But when it comes to the future of people that live with a disability and making a difference more broadly, what are your personal hopes and I guess aspirations and thoughts for the future in these areas?
It's such a good question. The example that I give is, you know, like when, you know, 20 years ago, pre my time, you know, if someone from the LGBTQI community started working somewhere, everyone was like, oh my God, what do we do? Like, it's so out of the norm. It's not in the mainstream, things like that. If that happens these days, it's a non-event, right? And if they are discriminated against because they are from that community, people and companies get destroyed like they should. You know what I mean? It's just not accepted anymore. I want to look back in preferably 5, if not 10 years and laugh at the fact that we used to have these conversations about disability. So, you know, because they were so from the abstract, or when somebody in a wheelchair starts to work, everyone's like, oh my God, they're in a wheelchair. Can you believe that? I've never seen someone in a wheelchair before, or whatever it is. Oh my God, oh, I've never talked to someone who's deaf before or has autism or whatever it is. So, and it's all about, and you're so right. Like, I'm not the kind of person to get on my high horse and yell at people when they don't understand. It's not their fault that they don't understand. They've probably never been exposed to disability. So the best way to do it is to educate and not do it in a forceful way, to be innovative, to be productive, to be humorous, to be emotional, to give people a better understanding of what it's like, but also to become an ally and an asset to help people with a disability get out there and live the lives that they want to live. And the biggest, you might think, how do I do that, right? And here's a little bit of a freebie, as I like to say, the best bit of advice that I can give is, DB, I'll ask you, if you want to find something out about your able-bodied coworker, what do?
You typically ask them, right?
You ask them a question, correct. So why, when somebody has a disability or when somebody comes for a job interview, I hear all the time, we interviewed someone with a disability and then we got to the end of the interview and I'm like, did you ask them if they need anything for their disability? And they go, no, we felt like we couldn't ask. And I said, did you give them the job? And they say, no, we didn't, because we didn't know what to do. And I was like, you know what I mean? And again, so as long as you do it in the correct, tactful way, and you don't, if you see me at a pub, don't run up to me and go, hey, why are you in a wheelchair? Like, create a relationship first or whatever it is. But the person with a disability will appreciate you asking them questions about their disability, because it makes everybody more comfortable, as long as you do it in the correct manner. And as soon as I say that, people go, oh, you know what? That makes sense. You know what I mean? So, I don't know exactly, if I had a crystal ball, I don't know exactly what it would look like. But I know, 20 years ago, as I said, things like, no one wanted to talk about animals and climate change until Steve Irwin came along. You know what I mean? Steve Irwin made it cool. So hopefully I can just try and make disability cool, so more people want to talk about it.
Well, you are, because, I've seen you in some of your fancy get out, and you're a pretty cool cat. Dill, there's a bunch of questions that are coming in. I'm just going to ask you a couple of those. One's just regarding, there's a few comments around you being an inspiration and so forth. The point about facial recognition and just enabling technology that's actually really cool for people who have a disability. I know we've spoken before about, for example, the importance of technology in enabling smart transportation solutions, so that it's actually easy to get on and off buses and on and off trains, and advise people in advance that someone in a wheelchair is actually approaching a train station, that sort of thing. The question here is, what other kinds of technologies do you see that's on the horizon that could really possibly change or improve the accessibility and inclusiveness for people who live with a disability in society?
Oh, that's such a great question. I mean, I think there's some really good stuff that's starting to happen, as you said, around location services. So, tracking people's locations, but also having within them education for people with a disability, whether where they are going is accessible. So, like you might go on a train to a restaurant, you get there and it's like, oh, it's up 5 steps, and you didn't know. You know what I mean? So rather than having all that embedded already, so people can make decisions on where they go is so important. But you're so true. Like, it's not about whether, and you even said, letting people know that there's someone with a disability trying to get on. It goes beyond that, even being accessible to get on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like public transport in so many places around the world aren't even accessible. For example, the Central Line in London, I'm sure a lot of people have been to London, been on that, the Red Line, not one single station is accessible. 0 out of 19. It's the main train line. And I know that's such an old system, but that makes it tough. You know what I mean? So, and as you said, I sat next to somebody who is completely blind. We were on a flight together. He then, and I don't know much about being vision impaired or blind, obviously, because I'm not. I'm upskilled in that area because I have friends in that who are. He landed and then through his watch and his smartphone, ordered an Uber and then ordered Uber Eats to meet him at home when he got home, right? He can't see. And I'm like, awesome, right? 10 years ago,
brilliant.
None of that. I drive a car with hand controls that are portable, that go in and out of any car. If I was born in 1970 instead of 1990, would I be driving a car? I got no idea. You know what I mean? So the advances in tech and health and that are making the lives of people with disabilities so much easier, but also giving them more opportunities to succeed. So it's up to all of us to provide those opportunities. Don't assume we're still in the 1970s where people with a disability can't do anything. You got to give us that opportunity to go out there and do that. And I'm not just saying this because I'm an ambassador. NEC are leading the charge in so many different areas to help that, right? And you might go to work every day and think, oh, I'm just going to work. But the development of tech, trust me, you already are uncovering things, but you don't even know what you're going to uncover. You know what I mean? Also, people think Siri or whatever is there to help you. Yes, but it's more so there to help people that can't see their phone screen. You know what I mean? So that's just an example of things where people are developing, you know, all that voice recognition stuff is so essential. So keep doing the awesome work that NEC is doing.
That's brilliant. And look, again, I know we talk and discuss and collaborate on issues around technology development, and we're going to continue to do that with you because you're leading the charge for, you know, as you say, 1 in 4 people in society that actually need technology to help them enable to live better lives, more fulfilled lives, more inclusive lives, and ultimately, as you said earlier on, get a job. You know, I think this is. I know this is a big thing that you drive with us all the time. Dil, I'm interested, just as a sideline comment here, around your pathway to the Paralympic Games next year. Obviously, Tokyo 2020 was placed on hold. Tell us a little bit about, you know, notwithstanding the COVID conditions that are around at the moment, just the kind of training regimes you're in at the moment for and the preparation you're putting into that event. There are many more leading up to that, but that's obviously a big milestone event now in 2021.
Yeah, exactly right. I've actually, you know, because I've spent more time in Australia than I ever have. I've been training the house, and I've also become a hairdresser, DB. You can see I've got a bit of a mullet. I've done it. I've done that myself.
That is quite concerning, I've got to say.
Yeah. But, hey, you're just jealous, all right, brother?
Very much so. Very much so.
So, you know, I'm always an open book and upfront, and I was devastated when the Paralympics got postponed. I still am pretty devastated because of the uncertain, you know, future of what it's going to hold. You know, the priority of all of us is the health and safety of everyone. So we fully understand, and I see people lining up at Centrelink and things, and you know, I've got it a lot better than they do for sure. But that was my whole life, you know what I mean? And to have it ripped away is tough, and but I'm really enjoying training, you know, and just waiting. The path to the Paralympics is uncertain. I'm supposed to be going to New York the first week of September for the US Open. They still seem to think that the US Open's going ahead.
Right.
Not sure how, but I'll let you know how that goes. And then the French Open is still going ahead as well. But obviously, you know, it's just logistically getting so tough to do anything. You know what I mean? And I just have everything crossed that there is some way that we can go to the Paralympic Games next year. And you know what? My heart goes out to everybody in Japan. My heart goes out to everybody in Japan because the amount of investment that they've put in, it would be devastating for them not to be able to have the Paralympics. And but it has to be done in a safe manner. But all I can say is I'm doing everything in my power to put my best foot forward to be able to perform when the time comes. But it's such an uncertain future for everyone, and I'd be lying to say it hasn't had an impact on my mental health like it has everybody else. So I just want to, as I said, send my love to everybody because we're all going through this weird time together. We are, and especially, you know, people in Victoria and other parts of the world who are still in pretty heavy lockdowns. It can be tough. So make sure you reach out and talk to people. That's the best thing that I've learned, and it's really helped me in the process.
Absolutely. Dil, we've just got one other question that's come in, and then we might just sort of bring this to the sort of final conclusion. But it's regarding your Ability Fest. Now, for some people that don't know on the line here, that Ability Fest is a concert that you developed, you founded, and this year had to be put on hold due to COVID. But the question is, who would be your dream artist to headline Ability Fest?
That's a great question. I reckon I'd have a double header, and I'd have Jay-Z and Beyonce, because that hits up my love for hip hop, but also pop music, and I reckon they're a pretty good combo together. I just came up with that on the spot, but I think that's pretty good. But I know NEC is a massive supporter of the Dylan Alcott Foundation, and that's our main revenue source for the year. And we lost it all, except the generous donation that NEC put in. So with that, we were able to give a young man called Paddy from Canberra. He has autism, and as a result, we funded his very own startup where he goes around and does laundry delivery and things like that, and gave him a job, pretty much funded his own workplace. So I hopefully we'll be back in 2021. Obviously, I don't think Music Festival will be back anytime soon. So we'll have to see what happens. But fingers crossed.
Yeah, look, I think that's all in the lap of the gods, as they say. And I think I'd encourage people to jump on your social channels to look at that story about Paddy, because it is
it was awesome.
It's an absolutely cracking story, and it is just another great insight into, you're not just promoting people who have disabilities, of people who, are in wheelchairs. I mean, Paddy is a great insight into what the Dylan Alcott Foundation does to support those who live with so many different disabilities. And it's just a great story, great insight into his family and how he's loved and supported by people like yourself.
Good on you, DB.
Look, to me, Dill, the pleasure of getting to know you over the last 18 months has been fantastic. You are a true inspiration. You're the epitome of someone who's committed to change, not just change for change's sake, but change humanity for good. And that's what we're in the business of. I know from a technology perspective, we're trying to enable technology to change things for the good. So I think you, as a human touch of that, are just a great example of it. We really thank you for your time. We're just going to pop up a poll now. We're doing a quick snap poll, 10 to 15 second snap poll on everyone that speaks today. And the three questions are, did you find this presentation of value today? It's just a 0 to 5. I'm now more informed about the subject matter, 0 to 5. And I'd like to know more about this subject. So I'm going to give people just 10 seconds to fill that out, and we'll pop those results up in 2 seconds.
Do I get to see these?
You sure do. You sure do. You will in 2 seconds. So
hopefully everyone didn't hate me.
Fingers crossed, hey? Fingers crossed. They might be marking me down.
I voted yes, definitely. It was great.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Shortly, for everyone else in the live auditorium, there's a panel discussion that starts shortly, and the panel discussion is going to be run by Joe Davies, who is part of our team here at NEC. So when we finish this presentation, you can just click to join that panel discussion back in the auditorium, and we'll go from there. So let's take a look, Dylan. Now's the moment of truth. The poll results.
Yes.
Okay, look at that. Did your presentation add value today? Well, it really did. Thanks, 4s and 5s, but the majority.
Shout out to the person who gave me 2.
And I'm now more informed. That's important. People are more informed. The vast majority, nearly 100% of people, are more informed about what you spoke about today. And I think also that 80% of people want to know more about this subject matter. And I think that is just so positive out of today, that people do want to know more about it. I know that in a moment you're going to be available in the networking lounge. So it's quite simple. You can just click out of this, click on Meet the Speakers, and Dylan will be there in a moment just to chat to you. But importantly, for this particular part, Dylan, I just want to thank you. It's a real pleasure. We're very proud to have you as our NEC ambassador, and it's been great talking to you today.
TB, you're a legend, and to everyone at NEC, as I said, I appreciate so much the support for hopefully many years to come, because, I really think we can do some incredible stuff together. Hope everyone's keeping safe. I'll see you over at the chat room.
Thanks, Dylan. Thank you.